Who does Antifa actually attack? Number 6. A Bernie supporter? See the link in the description for a written version of this video with in-text citations, links, sources, and etc. According to reports, the victim in this case is a leftist, a registered Democrat, and a Bernie and Hillary supporter, who brought an American flag to the protest against a Patriot Prayer rally, and a couple of Antifa black blockheads tried to take his American flag. He fought back and they put him in a hospital. This is a video posted at 12:40 p.m. on August 4th from a protest in Portland, Oregon against a rally and march organized by Patriot Prayer. As the Twitter account PDX Mike Bivens tweeted sometime before 12:40 p.m. on that day, quote, "Man down. He's dripping blood from his head. This is serious. He got in a struggle with some black-clad dudes over a flag and one of them clubbed him. Video coming. Hashtag defend PDX, hashtag alloutPDX. And have a look at this photo published online by the Oregonian." The video comes from this tweet right here, 12:40 p.m. from PDX Mike Bivens, and it says, "Video shows a struggle for a flag and then a black-clad person hits this dude in the head before he drops. I was watching the blood pour out of his head and into the street. Hashtag defend PDX, hashtag alloutPDX." Notice, he says he was watching the blood pour out of his head and into the street. And it seems PDX Mike Bivens is sort of a progressive, regressive leftist, you know. People who call themselves progressives who other people call regressives, you know what I mean. Now look at the weapon. It's covered in fabric, so we can't really see what it consists of. I mean, who knows what's under there? Some metal, bladed, spike, studded thing, who knows? Now, many media sources have covered this, folks, but other than the initial tweets by PDX Mike Bivens, it seems no one reported on this until the Oregonian posted this report on August 20th. After that, you see a couple of late articles on the 20th, and then the next day, the 21st, you see a bunch of articles, and so on. Again, see the link in the description to the written version of this for all the sources. According to the Oregonian, the victim's name was Paul Welch, and, quote, "He was one of hundreds of progressive Portlanders who turned out to oppose the right-wing rally," unquote. So folks, they attacked one of their own who did not totally fall in line with their collective mob mentality. Their whole lowest common denominator routine, by which I mean, well, any mob is automatically going to be reduced to its lowest common denominator, which is that of a violent buffoon. As I always try to point out when I'm talking about the media reports that I read off of or get information from, I'm not claiming that this report or any report is entirely or partially true. But at any rate, notice the wording, quote, "He was one of hundreds of progressive Portlanders," unquote. That is evidence that the report is biased towards the left. It would be more accurate and more honest to say that a good portion of them, at least, are far left, because Antifa is far left, for example. Not all of them were Antifa, although, you know, they might all define themselves as anti-fascists, and according to Antifa itself, anybody who's anti-fascist is Antifa, by which they mean anybody who's against what we call fascism is one of us, which turns out to mean far left, because that what they call fascist usually ranges from moderate left to, you know, the far right and everything in between. So Antifa is surely not progressive, and progressives, by the way, are what we call regressive, or the regressive left. To refer to them all as progressive, even if some of them were neo-progressive liberals, in other words, progressive, it seems to indicate a left-wing bias. So you can't just write this article off as being right-wing propaganda. It seems that we're dealing with a left-wing source here. If anything, you can only say that it's left-wing propaganda, but it's not sane to call this right-wing propaganda, at least not according to what I'm seeing. Of course, I could be wrong, but that's what the evidence shows me. But I still can't tell you how accurate this article is. Anyway, the Oregonian reports that the victim, Welch, called the Patriot Prayer rally / march a, quote, "tacitly fascist event," unquote. Now, if he really did say that, it would indicate that he's clearly on the side of the protesters. So again, it seems they attacked one of their own, who just didn't totally conform, because he had an American flag, and some of them consider that to be a white nationalist fascist symbol, or pretend they believe that so they can seem radical to their friends or whatever. The report said that Welch characterized himself as a, quote, slightly progressive leftist, unquote, and that he was carrying the American flag because, quote, I felt like showing that a liberal free Portland, or any major city really, is much more American and much more numerous and strong than any of these interloping groups, unquote. He reportedly also called them, quote unquote, outsiders, holding a, quote unquote, fascist event. The report also reads, Welch is a registered Democrat in Oregon, voting records show. He cast his ballot for Bernie Sanders in the 2016 presidential primary and Hillary Clinton in the general election, he said. The report also reads, the right, and certainly a lot of smaller groups like Patriot Prayer, might rush to things like the flag and try to take it up as, quote, this is our symbol exclusively, unquote, he said. Part of my thinking was to take it back, unquote. Aside from a few odd looks, Welch did not encounter any problems when he joined the hundreds of other counter-protesters who gathered at City Hall late that morning. In fact, Welch said he saw several other people with American flags sprinkled among the group of progressive, union members, and social justice activists. The trouble started as the throng began to march east along Southwest Salmon Street toward NATO Parkway at 12:30 p.m. As he carried the flag, two people dressed in black and covering their faces approached Welch and demanded he turned it over to them, calling it, quote, a fascist symbol, unquote, he said. Furthermore, the Oregonian reports, quote, my bones turned to jello and I just went down, unquote, said Welch, who believes he was struck with a metal object affixed to the end of the weapon. Quote, I remember thinking there was a very good chance that I could be beaten to death, unquote, Welch said. As blood began to pool around Welch's head, a group of volunteer street medics rushed to his aid, he said. Another medic eventually got Welch into a car and drove to an urgent care clinic on North Interstate Avenue. It took 4 staples to close the 3-inch gash in the back of his head, Welch said. He spent the next 2 days recovering from a concussion, though he was able to return to work. That week, Welch filed a police report. Sergeant Chris Burley, a Portland police spokesman, confirmed the Bureau opened an investigation into the incident. Effie Baum, a spokesperson with Popular Mobilization, a group that helped organize the counter-protest at City Hall, declined to comment for this story. In the days since the attack, Welch has felt conflicted and a bit disappointed, he said. Quote, it strikes me as the worst sort of political theater, unquote, he said of what happened to him. Quote, it's kind of like you're playing into your opponent's hands when you do that sort of thing, unquote. Gee, ya think so?
No shit, Sherlock.
Now, let me make it clear. I'm not laughing at the fact that this guy got hurt. I'm laughing because of that statement. And when you march next to them, you discredit yourself as well, stupid. And when you take on their propaganda and think things like Patriot Prayer, all those fascists, then you just lower yourself to their lowest common denominator mode. That's what they operate in. Mob mentality. Now, I noticed in the comments on the initial tweet to PDX Mike Bivens, we see the comment. My question is, why in the hell did so many stand by and watch 5 men be on this one man and not help him? I'm a woman and I would have stood by and watched. I think she means I would not have. I'm a woman and I would not have stood by and watched. I would have helped that man. We know what she's trying to say here. Now, PDX Mike Bivens responds, most people would probably be unwilling to become a victim on behalf of a complete stranger. Bullshit.
Bullshit!
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 Bullshit, 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 bullshit.
Bullshit, 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 bullshit.
Bullshit, 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 bullshit.
Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
Bullshit.
Bullshit!
Bullshit!
Big time, major league bullshit!
Bullshit!
No, Mike Bivens, that is not correct. Your average able-bodied person would rush in without thinking to try to stop such an assault. It's an automatic thing. It's an unthinking thing. That's just your average person. The people that are in that crowd, Mike Bivens, that you were standing among, filming, they're inferior to the average person. And by the way, they're collectivists, so they're just less likely to do something against the herd. If something happens, their natural proclivity would be to just, well, look around and see what other people are doing. And obviously, if everybody's looking around at everybody else to see what to do, nobody's going to do anything. That's how they are. Now, I couldn't find anything about this attack from Rose City Antifa, that's the Portland Antifa Twitter account, but I did notice that someone tweeted to them as well as to It's Going Down. Quote, media reports say that Black Bloc took an American flag, symbol of Western imperialism, from a man and hit him on August 4th. They claim he is a Democrat/progressive, but Antifa is not anti-left, they are anti-fascist, right? This can't be true, can it? Unquote. So far, neither account has responded. Gee, I wonder why. So according to reports, a person with an American flag is assaulted for it on the protester side because he did not conform to the collective. He wasn't the only one with an American flag, according to the Oregonian. Who knows why they chose him first? Anyway, they did. And at any rate, they had no tolerance or acceptance of him. My point is this. At these Patriot Prayer and free speech rallies in general, hosted by people like Joey Gibson and Patriot Prayer, Amber Gwen Cummings, the whole No to Marxism events, the Boston Free Speech events, etc. and so on, they have no issue with rainbow flags, no issue with the Jewish star that some people wear at these things if they are Jewish. They have no problem with people who say, look, I'm a liberal, I'm just here for free speech, I'm not really for Trump. Whatever. They're totally tolerant of all that sort of diversity. And also, of course, diversity of skin color, whatever you want to call it, race, ethnicity, whatever. In fact, one of the main organizers of events in Berkeley is Amber Cummings, a transgender person, okay? And people rally around her. They're not exactly Nazis, man, I'm telling you. Joey Gibson, not entirely white. His group is pretty darn diverse. And he's had Erin Sith, a transgender person, speak at least one of their rallies, maybe more, I'm not sure. Friends and associates with Eddie Dixon, another transgender person, someone who was attacked at one of these rallies, but that's another episode. I think that might be episode 7, it depends. Currently talking to Eddie Dixon about this stuff. They have no issue with people who identify as left of center, even anarcho-capitalists. You would think that, people who are hyper-patriotic might actually, have a real big issue with an anarcho person, but no, and as long as they're not anarcho-communists, that's fine with them. They would, however, take issue with white supremacists, neo-Nazis. A couple of times that people have shown some sort of, signs of that stuff, it was not really tolerated, and you know what, it's okay to not be tolerant of certain things. So for example, they ostracized and officially denounced Jeremy Joseph Christian. If you don't know who that is, that's one thing that the far left likes to always throw in their face, like, oh, here's proof that Patriot Prayer is really Nazi people. Meanwhile, that we're dealing with a crazy person who had radical left-wing and radical right-wing ideas, and as soon as he displayed signs of this stuff, he was denounced and ostracized.
You're not with us, buddy. You're not with us. No, guys, you're not with us. You're looking at the problem. No. You're giving a Nazi sign and you're saying the N-word. Dude, you're giving a Nazi sign and you're saying the N-word. So please go away. That ain't we're going to ask you again nicely.
Anyway, moving on. While racial diversity is embraced by both sides, that much is true. Although the rally is usually more racially diverse than the Antifa Black Bloc, which is almost always white almost all the time, only the rally side embraces diversity of political views. Antifa is utterly intolerant of individuality, of individual liberty. Alright, that's it, folks. Make sure you are subscribed to me on BitChute because I almost always have 2 of 3 strikes on my YouTube channel, and strike 3 means it goes away, no questions asked. So scroll down, see the link for that, subscribe to me there, and of course see the link to the written version of this website, or probably by now an archive version of it, because every time I try to post anything about Antifa on WordPress, they take it away, so I have to archive it right away. So anyway, see the links for those, and leave me a comment below, tell me what you think of this stuff. Thanks for watching. Love, life, light, liberty, and leaping laughter.